Risk has a way of magnifying itself in the mind. Before anything even happens, the story begins. What if this fails? What if I lose money? What if people judge me? What if I can't recover? The body tightens. The future expands into worst-case scenarios. The imagination rehearses collapse. And suddenly, the risk feels bigger than the action itself. Most of that weight isn't the actual risk. It's the drama wrapped around it. Drama is not the same as danger. Drama is narrative intensity layered on top of uncertainty. It adds meaning. It adds identity. It adds emotional exaggeration. Danger is concrete. Drama is psychological. And most of what stops people from moving isn't the risk. It's the story attached to it. Risk without drama feels different. It is measured. It is assessed. It is real. But it is not inflated. You look at the downside. You evaluate the cost. You determine the recovery plan. Then you move. No theatrical inner speech. No self-judgment. No heroic narrative. Just action. Many people either avoid risk completely or romanticize it. Avoidance says, don't step forward. Stay safe. Keep everything stable. Romanticizing says, take the leap. Burn the ships. Make it epic. Both are forms of ego. Avoidance protects identity from embarrassment. Romanticizing protects identity by making it heroic. Risk without drama does neither. It simply evaluates. There is something mature about calm risk. You don't need applause for taking it. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to make it larger than it is. You say, this might work. It might not. I can handle either. That last sentence changes everything. I can handle either. When you trust your ability to recover, risk becomes less frightening. Recovery capacity reduces fear more than optimism ever will. Drama makes risk feel irreversible. It whispers, if this fails, everything collapses. But very few decisions are truly irreversible. Most risks are adjustable. You can recalibrate. You can pivot. You can rebuild. When identity isn't fused to outcome, recovery becomes possible. When identity is fused to outcome, failure feels like erasure. That is why drama intensifies. It equates mistake with personal collapse. Risk without drama understands scale. Not every decision is life-altering. Not every misstep is catastrophic. Not every loss defines trajectory. Scale brings proportion. Proportion calms the nervous system. And a calm nervous system makes smarter decisions. Let's bring this into something practical. You're considering starting something new. Drama-based thinking says, what if I look foolish? What if people doubt me? What if it doesn't grow fast enough? What if I'm not cut out for this? Risk without drama says, what's the cost? What's the timeline? What's the downside? Can I absorb it? Clear, concrete, grounded. No identity inflation. Drama often exaggerates social consequences. It assumes people are watching closely, judging harshly, remembering every misstep. In reality, most people are absorbed in their own concerns. When you remove imagined audience pressure, risk feels lighter. You're not performing courage. You're simply testing possibility. That subtle shift reduces emotional intensity. Season 8 is about grounded power. Grounded power doesn't avoid risk. It engages it calmly. It doesn't need to posture bravery. It doesn't need to dramatize fear. It acknowledges uncertainty and moves anyway. There is strength in that steadiness. Risk without drama also reduces impulsivity. When you're caught in emotional intensity, you make extreme decisions. All in, all out, now or never. Grounded risk evaluates timing. Is this the right moment? Is preparation sufficient? Is the downside manageable? It moves strategically. Strategy outperforms emotional leaps long-term. There is also something freeing about not narrating your risk-taking. You don't need to tell everyone you're taking a leap. You don't need to brand it as bold. You simply act. And if it works, you continue. If it doesn't, you adjust. No identity damage. No heroic collapse. Just movement. Fear will still appear. That's natural. Risk activates uncertainty. But fear doesn't need to become drama. Fear can simply be information. Heart rate rises. Attention sharpens. You assess. You proceed. Or you recalibrate. Fear doesn't have to be a story. It can be a signal. Signals are useful. Stories often paralyze. Risk without drama protects energy. Drama consumes enormous mental bandwidth. You replay outcomes. You anticipate judgment. You imagine collapse. That mental rehearsal exhausts you before action even begins. Grounded risk conserves energy. You assess once. You decide. You move. Less rumination. More clarity. This also applies to conversations. Sometimes the risk is speaking up. Drama says, what if they react badly? What if this ruins everything? Grounded risk says, what's the cost of silence? What's the likely outcome? Can I handle discomfort? Then you speak calmly, without escalation, without performance. That kind of risk strengthens systems. Many people delay risk because they wait for certainty, but certainty rarely arrives. Waiting for total clarity often means waiting forever. Grounded risk doesn't require full certainty. It requires sufficient information, enough to act responsibly. Then you gather new data through action. That cycle builds competence. Competence builds confidence. Confidence reduces drama. There is something empowering about knowing you can survive mistakes, not because you want them, but because you trust recovery. When recovery is trusted, risk becomes manageable. You don't cling to safety excessively. You don't chase danger theatrically. You move proportionally. That proportional movement compounds. Risk without drama also improves leadership. Teams look to leaders for emotional regulation. If a leader panics dramatically, the system destabilizes. If a leader underreacts carelessly, trust erodes. Calm assessment stabilizes. We're taking this step. Here's the downside. Here's our backup. Clarity reduces fear, and reduced fear increases collective focus. The same applies internally. When you treat risk calmly, your mind trusts your judgment. You stop doubting your decisions constantly. You stop replaying scenarios endlessly. You act, then you evaluate. That rhythm builds decisiveness. Decisiveness builds momentum. Momentum builds growth. You don't need to eliminate risk to feel safe. You need to regulate how you interpret it. Remove drama. Keep assessment. Remove narrative intensity. Keep proportion. Remove identity from outcome. Keep responsibility. That balance produces sustainable growth. Imagine living with risk as a normal part of movement. Not as crisis, not as spectacle, just as a natural component of building. You test, you refine, you adjust. No hero story, no collapse story, just iteration. That iteration builds resilience quietly, and quiet resilience lasts. You are allowed to take steps forward without dramatizing them, allowed to try without announcing it, allowed to adjust without shame, allowed to fail without narrative collapse. Risk without drama is strength in motion, and strength in motion builds steadily. If this episode helped you see risk differently, stay with the season. Season 8 is about grounded power that doesn't need spectacle. And if you know someone frozen by overthinking outcomes, send this to them. Sometimes courage isn't louder, it's calmer. We continue in episode 13.